concerned with the park, and he said, got 5 hours? And she said, actually, yes, I do. And he was like a deer in the fucking headlights. I was like, oh, you're a bullshitter. You're a bullshitter. You're a big bullshitter. He said, got 5 hours? Because she's thinking, well, you just told me you got time. And he was like a deer in the fucking headlights. Man, he was like fucking funny. And yeah, I was about to say, I was going to say something. The best ride to be on, which was fairly cruisy in peak periods when there was thousands of people in the park and big queues and non-stop. Best ride to be on was probably operating rail chase. Because you're in the booth, you're sitting in the booth, and you're just in the control panel where operating the actual ride. Being on a platform and escorting guests into their seats, and then when they're light, helping them out. Mechanical, and you're being very mechanical for hours on end. I was very competitive to operate rail chase because everyone wanted to operate rail chase, and there'd be a phone on the platform, and sometimes the assistant who was letting people off the ride, they'd call the booth, and you knew what they wanted, and they'd say, can I operate? And he'd say, I've still got 10 minutes left. I've got 10 minutes. It was a bit competitive, depending on who you were working with. And they'd say 10 more minutes. They'd be like, ugh. Because once you're in the booth at rail chase operating, it was very smooth sailing. You had to focus on what you were doing, of course, but you sat down. You were actually sitting down at the control booth. You weren't interacting with the people outside. You were the first carriage of people, small carriages. You just had to do that. You had to watch that, and you get the thumbs up signal to go. It was very cruisy, really cruisy, and everyone wanted to do that. And everyone wanted to do that. And when the park was full, Ghost Hunters was not exactly fun. Because you need to use the control panel. Very rarely use the control panel. That wasn't fun. Aqua Nova, okay. Ironically enough, in busy periods, Aqua Nova was okay because just socialising to the people in the queue outside. Or if you're operating, pretty okay actually. Pretty okay. AS1 a fucking nightmare because there's nowhere to go. Actually, in regard of AS1, it was a bit tedious, a bit unfortunate to be on AS1. Just one of those things. Just one of those things that nowhere to go. If you had a big queue, there's nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, and yeah. So not exactly the most pleasant ride to be on, to be operating. I never operated Mad Bazooka that often, but in peak periods of Mad Bazooka, probably pretty okay, as well as VR1. Yes, and as well as VR1, yeah. So there was also Nickelodeon. They had Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon was in a kids area, kids section. Nickelodeon. I went in there twice to visit literally ride operators. We didn't need to know about Nickelodeon. Didn't have to operate it. The people who operated it didn't assist on the other rides. It was sort of a separate entity. In regard of did we go on the rides after the park opened? Yes, technically yes, because we had a shift on rail chase. and your opening rail chase, you had to ride the roller coaster around. You got to ride the roller coaster around. And if maintenance had already done that at say 6 AM, because maintenance arrived early, if maintenance had already done that, you didn't necessarily have to do that. Sometimes you just did it anyway, just to one go around the track, make sure it's all okay. I don't know if that, and sometimes that was done on Aqua Nova, but you didn't have to sit in the pods on Aqua Nova because they were right in front, so you just operated and made sure everything sounded okay and looked okay. But with rail chase, yes, ghost hunters, maintenance had probably been there at 5 or 6 AM to check that. Usually most of the time that we rocked up to our shift, morning shift, maintenance had already taken care of everything. And so, yes, training was, they got us in about 4 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week, for about 4 hours of training, 4 to 5 hours of training. And I actually started my training on Aqua Nova. Aqua Nova, I was on Aqua Nova and AS1, and so it's been 4 to 5, could have been 6 hours, I'm fairly certain it was about 4 to 5 hour shifts. I had 4 to 5 hour shifts on Aqua Nova. Aqua Nova, oh, Aqua Nova, oh, Aqua Nova. And so that was some intense training on Aqua Nova, and it was AS1. The park opened, and so I spent about the first 6 weeks on Aqua Nova, operating Aqua Nova for 8 hours per day, and they can get you after a while. Aqua Nova, operating Aqua Nova for 8 hours a day, and sometimes like after an hour, like if someone's operating the ride, they'd be like, can you operate? Can you please operate? Please. And so I was sent up to. I would have been sent up to Ghost Hunters. I went up to Ghost Hunters, learned all about Ghost Hunters. Went up to Ghost Hunters and learned all about Ghost Hunters, and eventually I got trained on rail chase and magic motion. That took a while. That took a while. It took a couple of months, but the first 3 months I was in the park, I was Aqua Nova, because what happened when you'd go into Aqua Nova and there was these seats and it was like a space shuttle thing, and then you had the big screen and you went through these tunnels or whatever, and there was like a monster underwater creature. It was like there was like an underwater creature, and we had to add dialogue to it. There was a specific script when we started, but once we got the hang of things, we just made up our own thing. And I think in the I think in the periods down the track when I got completely over, I didn't say anything. Sometimes I just wouldn't say anything. But we added dialogue to that. Majority of the time we added dialogue to it. And many people did not like to operate Aqua Nova. And I was like, they'd say, have you done many hours on this? I was like, well, when the park opened, this is what I was trained on. I was trained on this ride. And then for the first 2 months, this is what they're like, oh, you did this for 2 months? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, so far. And yeah, you know, it'll get to you a bit if you're doing it continuously. It's partly exciting. And so, yes, and I realised that I had not mentioned VR1. VR1 virtual reality ride. I spent numerous hours. Operating on VR1, and I think that if I wanted to just be by myself for a while, if I wanted to be away from the crowd, go into VR1 and the console desk and being there for a while, and it was pretty okay. Vague now a bit, but you get all the people in the games, see them down there, put their headsets on. I only ever experienced it a few times when I was trained on it, and but I operated it numerous times. It was just diagonal from Aqua Nova. And Rail Chase, I don't know if I explained Rail Chase properly. Rail Chase was an indoor roller coaster ride, and it was set in, it was like an archaeological thing. Yeah, like an archaeological thing, a sort of open cave, and it was an actual indoor roller coaster, and it was kind of fun. I did operate that frequently, and Ghost Hunters was like a big haunted mansion, and big haunted mansion on this track trolley going around sort of thing. Magic motion. You had the big screen, the big movie screen, and what someone had done in the States was they had filmed them. So there was a 35mm camera, and they put the camera on the roller coaster and filmed that. So you sat there on the seats moved around, and it's amazing I wasn't sick. It's amazing I didn't get motion sickness, because I operated that often, frequently, and there was 2 versions of a roller coaster, and I did that. Now, yes, I found it at that point in time, I wore the uniform. It gave me an excuse to talk to people, and the ones, the costumes that we had, and so I found it particularly easy to. We had guests in the park from all walks of life and all ages, and I found it particularly easy to interact with them and to speak with them. This was in non-peak periods on Ghost Hunters. It was a great place to socialise, to have a chat for a few hours. Yes, and yes, the uniforms. I didn't really say too much about the uniforms. The uniforms, right. Rail Chase was a safari outfit, a khaki outfit, safari outfit. Ghost Hunters was, we were dressed as, well, the theme was mad scientists. That was the theme. Even though the actual, we go around the track, you go through different rooms of a haunted mansion type of thing. So we had, actually we wore laboratory coats, and it was just pants. I can't remember what colour the pants were. Maybe they were like a vanilla colour or light brown. We had laboratory coats on, and for Aqua Nova, there was a futuristic blue outfit for Aqua Nova. So it was all navy blue, and it had yellow and red, green stripes down the side. And for Mad Bazooka, it was similar to Aqua Nova, and because in the future section of the park, it was all the same uniform, except for Mad Bazooka, it had the blue pants, and it was a blue top with a fluoro green vest. It was a fairly unattractive outfit. And for VR1, it was exactly the same. The only difference between VR, Aqua Nova, AS1 and Mad Bazooka was that AS1, Aqua Nova and VR1 had the same uniform, except for Mad Bazooka you had the fluoro green vest. It was a bit awful. And I remember when the park first started up, and they said to us, "No, we actually really want you to. We really like you to act your parts out, really act them out." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." And we tried that, and that lasted all of about 5 minutes. Like, act like you're in a safari, act like you're a mad scientist, which is it sounds fun to do, and it's fun for all of about 5 minutes, and after about 5 minutes, it's like, okay, this is going to be real nice, I guess. Not that we weren't being nice, but just acting out the parts was a bit exhausting. And the most important thing was just to be genuinely nice to the guests who came into the park. Greet them nicely, be polite to them, grin, smile. Hi, how you going today? Good afternoon. Welcome to Sega World Sydney. That was the most important thing. That's it. That's what counted. And we went through a few things where they really wanted us to be very into the theme of things. But they became exhausting, and it lasted as they were about 5 minutes. And the end factor, at the end of the day, the most important thing is just be nice to people. Just be nice to people. And yeah. It's 9th of October 2022. And okay, so Aqua Nova, so the uniform for Aqua Nova, AS1, Mad Bazooka, and VR1 was the same uniform, except that on Mad Baz had to wear what I just said 15 seconds previously. I gave the wrong impression about. There was a light green fluoro vest that you had to wear on Mad Bazooka, and I thought that that's what made the uniform unattractive. So the actual uniform itself, which was white sleeves, green and red stripe, or pinkish stripe, it was a blue outfit, blue pants, blue top and bottom, green and red stripe going down the side, white shirt. I thought it was an attractive outfit. It's the green vest that we had to wear on Mad Bazooka. That was the unattractive addition to the outfit. Yeah, it's just that fluoro green vest. No, but the rest of the uniform, yes. I think the most, yeah, yes. And it's the 10th today. It's the 10th of October, right? Or it could be 11th. No, it's the 10th of October. Also, very, very quickly, I'm certain that we had to wear those green fluoro vests extra as part of the uniform when we're on Mad Bazooka. Not entirely certain. It's been 24 years. But I'm certain, I think we had to. There was something slightly different about Mad Bazooka. And I think it was that we had to wear a fluoro green vest, but I could be off. It might have been just the arcade section that where someone had to wear a fluoro green vest on one of the rides. I think it was Mad Bazooka. I can't be for certain. It's been 24 years. I don't know. I can't remember, but it could be. Yeah. Yes. In regard of Scott, I've actually watched certain bits of footage, maybe 10 or 20 times over, just because of editing, for my own reasons, to gain an understanding of it, for what I'm saying now, compared to what it was in yesteryear. And you know what? A month ago, even 2 weeks ago, I would have had certain words for Scott. Sorry. Now, because I've watched this footage over and over again, I'm like, if I was to see Scott in person, I'd say, yeah, you're a ball breaker that day. Yeah, I said that thing to the supervisor. You reprimanded me. You gave me a clipper across the ear, verbal style. Yeah. And if I see him now say, yeah, you were a ball breaker that morning. You were a real ball breaker. All right, let's have a beer. Because I don't care anymore. I'm over it. I actually don't care anymore. I just don't care. That's what watching your own footage back over and over again, because it's like a counselling session. That's what that does. So I don't care anymore. And yeah. And it's now the evening of the 25th of August. Actually, what happened was, from my perspective, were the rides worth the wait of it? Like, sometimes the queue could be anything from 10 minutes to a 1 hour queue. Was it worth it to get on the ride? No, it wasn't. It wasn't worth it. And I don't like queues at all. And so the park did their best to entertain when it was in peak periods of school holiday periods. The queue needed to be entertained, so they brought in clowns and entertainers, and of course us as ride operators, because you had to got to engage in conversation with the guests if you're outside the ride. Now, from my perspective, do I think it was better to go on the ride or to be operating the ride? From my perspective, it was just better to be operating the ride. So I suppose the one ride that I enjoyed in the park to go on, Rail Chase, I wasn't interested in any of the other rides, like to go on them, no. And one thing that we were constantly asked by people that come into the park, they'd say, do you go on the ride? I'd be like, this is the thing, this is no. Because during training, because before Sega World, there was about 2 months, we had 2 months of training before Sega World opened to the public. And during that training, we constantly went on the rides. While we were trained to operate them, we'd go on them. And so we did that for all the rides, over and over and over and over again during the day. Don't really feel the need to go on them when you're actually operating, or when you're there. To there, because I wouldn't have waited in the queue like that. So I think the best thing was to do is to entertain the people as they are in the queue. Be surprised about it. The place was losing money. The place lost money since the day it opened. It was losing money since the day. My favourite periods in the park, off-peak periods, and when there was during the school holidays, there was huge crowds, and it kept us. It was busy, so you have to do a ride cycle every 10 minutes. It got a bit repetitive, and got the most remote corner of the park. Rides-wise, back of Ghost Hunters. The back of Ghost Hunters. That was the most Magic Motion as Ghost Hunters, and that was wonderful times at Sega World. Oh, I think at the end of the day, I think positive times outweighed negative aspects. I think I had more positive times there. I met a lot of different walks of life there. I met a lot of wonderful people, had a lot of interesting conversations, and the people that I worked with were wonderful. And I think that does outweigh the negative aspects of it. I think it does outweigh that. I love those times. So this is the deal. I was going to put this in the description, underneath in the description of the video. I was going to type this out, and I thought I'll just do it this way. So today's date. What is it? Let me just give me one moment. Let me just pick up what today's date is. It's the 24th. It's 24th November 2022, and 2 days ago. So 2 days ago, I put this video together, and I spent 30 minutes on this 2 days ago, and I was done. So over the last 48 hours, I was in a dilemma. I was umming and ahhing whether to include pictures this time. It did not occur to me last time in the big video to put pictures in. It just didn't occur to me. And this time I thought, what if I add a few pictures in, just to give a bit more a reference to things? And so the pictures on Google, it's very limited, very limited. And I thought, am I going to include? It was a bit of a dilemma. And considering that was back in 1998, mobile phones weren't a thing. They were only just starting out. So no one was really walking around taking pictures except people with cameras, portable cameras. They had to get the pictures developed with, and the only cameras that were there, because everyone who came into the park, well, some had cameras, but very few people taking pictures. And the people inside the park, some professional photographers came in. But the thing was, when they take pictures of the rides, they would ask us to get out of the way. They'd say, "Can you just move out of the way so we can get a picture of the ride?" Then looking back in retrospect, at the time I should have just said, "No, I'm going to stand here. You take my picture with me standing here." Yeah, but we got out of the way, and very few pictures of the park were actually taken. Well, actually, very few have ended up on Google. I haven't been able to use many because they're all mixed in. Because there's a Sega World London, and there's a Sega World Japan, or in Tokyo. I'm not sure which one it is. So there's at least 3 other Sega World. There's at least 3 other Sega World. There's at least 3 other Sega Worlds apart from Sydney, and all those photos are mixed in with Sydney ones. Now I can't decipher the difference because I look at half, I'm thinking, no, that's not how it was. It wasn't like that. That's not how it was like. I'm like, oh, the London ones are in here and the Japan ones are in here. So once again, as I say, this is back in the day when iPhones weren't even heard of. Okay, they weren't heard of. So people weren't walking around snapping pictures of Sega World left, right, and centre. They just weren't. It wasn't that generation yet. So yeah, I'm finished up with this now. It took for 4 hours on and off over the past 2 days, and am I going to put photos in here, or I'll throw in a few photos in for some better reference this time. Okay. The Ghost Hunters, the picture of the Ghost Hunters platform that I've included, the Ghost Hunters, it's actually from Japan. The reason why I included it is because it's practically identical to what we had at Sydney. We had the white laboratory coats and the vanilla trousers, and anyway, I've ended up including it. Right. Okay, so finishing this up now. It's actually quite somewhat miserable that I didn't include any pictures of Magic Motion because there are none. There's one, and I'm certain that it's not from Sydney Sega World. It may be from the Japan one. It's actually quite miserable that the rides inside the rides weren't photographed more extensively, or that it just didn't end up on Google. Like a fraction of the park has ended up on Google, and that's unfortunate. So Now that I'm doing this, now that I'm putting the photos up, would have been great to have a shot of the operating booth at Railtrace. That would have been terrific. And yeah, well, I'd just like to add that I actually had fun during peak hour periods at Sega World. I had fun. Getting into a sort of a rhythm with certain rides. Yeah, got a bit tedious on Ghost Hunters. Got a bit tedious on Ghost Hunters, and I really enjoyed the quiet periods. So yeah, it's just very unfortunate that the pictures, there's nothing for Magic Motion. That's a little bit unfortunate. So, Sega World Sydney opened to the public March 1997 and came to its demise in November of 2000 and was demolished in 2008. Demolished in 2008. Bit sad. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Finished.